Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show, where we get to the heart of why you overeat and how to stop. If you struggle with food and weight like I did, welcome home.
Welcome everybody to the Heal Your Hunger Show. So happy to have you here. It is a great day to be alive, and I'm so excited for this interview. Oh my gosh, knock your socks off, okay? So really vital information for all of us who struggle with food and weight, all of us who might have mystery symptoms, all of us who might be struggling with either depression or anxiety or attention issues. Yeah, like all of us, okay? So you fit in one of those categories, I'm sure. So anyway, before I get on to speaking about my guest, I just want to say welcome if you're at the Heal Your Hunger Show for the first time. You might have gotten here from hearing my TEDx talk, which is out and going gangbusters. We have over 250,000 views on that. You might be here because a friend forwarded a link to the podcast, or you attended the Quit Sugar Challenge. I don't know, but you're here by divine appointment, whatever and however you got here, okay? And that's important. That is important. You're here by a divine appointment. And what I mean by that is that there are no mistakes, okay? This is a powerful conversation that we have here on the Heal Your Hunger Show. I'm somebody who had struggled with food and weight and struggled big time, meaning I was a binge eater, just like out of control eater for so long, and to the tune of being 50 pounds overweight by the time I was 21. So I'm no stranger to binge eating, yo-yo dieting, feeling completely demoralized by my weight and my rolls in my tummy. So I get it, okay? I get it. And I also get that it takes a deeper journey in order to heal, okay? That diets are gonna keep you on that merry-go-round, frustrated, demoralized, erratic emotions of, yay, I'm on the diet, I'm doing it, to, oh my God, I blew it again. So in order to have a different experience and relationship with food, we have to go deeper. That's what the Heal Your Hunger Show is about, is let's talk about the real issues, the ones that, make us have cravings, the issues that make life hard, where we soothe ourselves with food. So if you're down for that, you are in the right place. Also, make sure to join us in the Facebook group. So on Facebook, you can type in the secret sauce to end emotional eating. And that's where you can be in community with other emotional eaters. We have over 5,000 people in that group, women primarily, who are just so tired of the diet roller coaster ride. So I'm in there, popping in there with inspirational messages, updates, news of new things coming down the pike that I have for you. Talks with experts. It's just a great place to be if you're ready to stop obsessing with food and weight, and really start getting real about what's going on. So we're here to support you in the Secret Sauce group. And lastly, if you are not really sure if you're an emotional eater, if that's kind of a new term for you, if you related to my talk, my TEDx talk, and you're like, okay, I think that's me, take the quiz at healyourhunger.com, HEAL, spelled just like the show, Heal Your Hunger. Take the quiz. It's a free quiz on the website, and you'll get an immediate score, which will tell you if you're an emotional eater or a food addict or somewhere in between. So that's a great place to start. In terms of addressing emotional eating, start there, find out your personalized score, and then we'll be offering solutions and ideas that can help you on your healing journey. Okay, so my guest is Dr. Achina Stein, and she's a DO physician and a board certified psychiatrist, and she's been in practice since 1994. She is amazing. She's also a certified practitioner at the Institute, or of the Institute for Functional Medicine, and her story is compelling, starting with depression in her family, namely with her son, and how she learned how to help him and get the proper help for him, and then on to training in functional medicine so she could learn how to help her clients in a more integrative way to really heal their depression and anxiety without just being stuck on pharmaceuticals for the rest of their lives. So it's a really powerful message, and I think a timely one, seeing as the pandemic just created so many health issues and mental health issues. So I learned so much from this interview, and I know you will as well. She's just a lovely person. And stay till the end, because at the very end of this interview, I learned something really cool about how she maintains her mental health, which is exactly how my boyfriend does. And that was super cool too. So, okay, enjoy the show. Please share this show with other people. And please reach out if you want help with emotional eating. On my website, healyourhunger.com, you can actually register for a complimentary breakthrough session if you're ready to take action, if you're ready to explore the options we have for you that can help you literally live in freedom. Okay, on with the show. Hey, Achina, good to see you. Welcome.
Oh, great to see you too, Trish.
Thanks for being on the show, and thanks for having me on your show. And we have a lot of alignment in our messages and philosophies for really living at our best, at our healthiest, at our healthiest mentally, especially. So I'm really excited to have you on here, because what you do is amazing. And I love that you're helping people really deal, with depression in a new and refreshing way. So thanks for that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a great conversation. I think more and more people really need to hear again and again, and to be reminded that there's lots of options, absolutely, for depression and depression-like symptoms that people can have. Yes.
Yeah. And I'll just say, from my personal experience as an emotional eater, when I was eating crappy foods and when I was in the food, like it's all I could see, I was a binge eater, gaining weight, it's really easy to get depressed when you're hurting your body with unhealthy foods and you're in the hole, you're in the rabbit hole of, nothing's working, you hate your body, you can't get a handle on, the overeating, and all you eat are sugary, carby, chemical laden snack foods, right? Ice cream, chips, just stuff with crap in it. So basically that I had a lot of experience when I was in my binge mode with depression, but after I started my recovery journey, it took me a while to understand my own bouts with depression, and we can get into that maybe a little bit later. But can you share a little bit about how this became your niche? Like how, you're a psychiatrist, obviously helping people with mental health. And I'm sure that's probably the biggest thing that people ended up coming to you for. Is that how you got into this, or did you have a personal story with this as well?
Well, I got into functional psychiatry or functional medicine, getting to the root causes of mental health issues through an experience with my son. So my son, at the age of 14, had an acute mental health breakdown, essentially an acute depression, to the point of feeling suicidal, with almost attempting suicide by jumping off a fifth floor building.
So, wow. Yeah. Okay. Very personal topic for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this is a situation where I am a mother, and here I am, a traditional psychiatrist, right? And here I am, a mother of this child, and this came out of the blue. It wasn't something that, there were any signs of him doing anything like this. It was an overnight kind of thing. He had an acute change in mental health symptoms or emotional symptoms. And it was kind of triggered as a tiff with his brother. Mm-hmm. A normal everyday adolescent sibling tiff, nothing out of the ordinary that people are used to that have multiple children. You can have little fights about things, but to the degree that he went to in acting on those feelings was really out of range. So that wasn't something that I anticipated at all. And, as a mother, you think, what am I missing? As a psychiatrist, oh my gosh, what am I missing? And, I wasn't missing anything in terms of what I was trained to do at all. But I knew that something was missing because
Right.
it happened, right? And so I could have easily chalked it up to, genetics, saying, okay, well, both sides of her family have, mental health issues, significant mental health issues. And all right, it's showing up now in my kids. And, you could chalk it up to that, but there was a symptom that he had that made me think there's got to be something else going on. And it was double vision. He had double vision at the same time,
Wow.
so he could no longer read. And so, I had him see a psychiatrist, got him on meds to stabilize him and made him feel a little bit better. He ended up being on 4 medications within a matter of months.
Wow.
So it wasn't just depression. He had severe anxiety. He couldn't sleep at night and he couldn't focus and he couldn't read. And so they thought he couldn't read was because of not being able to focus. So suddenly he has major depression, generalized anxiety disorder, and attention deficit disorder, right? All at once, right? So, while we're trying to figure out what's going on and why, we had to, change all of his schooling in terms of putting things on books on tape. Fortunately, some of his books were already on an audio CD, so that really helps. But, I took him to multiple neurologists and eye doctors to try to figure out like, what is going on? Why does he have this double vision? This makes no sense, Yeah. And serendipitously, I came upon a functional medicine doctor, and that's where everything began in terms of his healing, and found that he had severe celiac disease. And we didn't know that, but we have a family history of it, so we didn't know that he had it. And, once we made changes in his diet and did lots of testing, we found that he was nutritionally deficient because he ate only white food because of texture and taste. Ate a lot of pasta, a lot of corn, things with chips, snacks, lots of rice, all white food, no vegetables, or actually one vegetable, I should say, broccoli, which was a good vegetable, but not the wide variety of vegetables that he needed to get his nutrition. And, in the first couple of months of changing his diet alone, the lifelong constipation that he had, the lifelong eczema that he had went away within a matter of a couple months.
Wow.
Yeah. And those were things that, we just thought was part of his normal. And, it's just what he lived with, and he was kind of resigned to it, didn't like it, but this is who I am. But guess what? It all went away in a matter of a couple of months. And that's where he had the buy-in to do the rest of the work, and believed that, oh my gosh, this changed my constipation and my eczema. I'm going to keep doing this. And within 6 months to a year, within 6 months, he noticed mood changes, mood improvement, and anxiety improvement. And by the time a year came around, we started taking him off the medications. And within a couple of years, he was off of medication altogether. And he's doing great. So,
and was this journey to understand where these symptoms were coming from, and to understand diet has an impact, and the celiac, was that all post jumping off the out of the 5-story building? Was that?
Yeah, he didn't jump.
Oh, he didn't. I'm sorry, not jump.
He was going to, but no, this is all after.
Okay, so that was the big obvious red flag to this boy needs some help. Let's figure this out.
Absolutely. Yes. No, I got him to come off the ledge and come back into the apartment. We were in an apartment, renting an apartment for a few months in France. Actually, this happened in France.
Wow.
And my husband's a professor, and when he was on sabbatical, we decided to take the kids out of school and homeschool them, in India for a couple months, and then France. And so we had been in France, and one of the things that he was upset about was the fact that he missed his friends, which is normal. I mean, it's normal to miss your
Sure.
friends. And then he had like a little tiff with his brother, so just normal kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it was really, it was enlightening. The whole experience was so enlightening that I decided to quit my job as a medical director of a community mental health center and work for this doctor who took care of him.
Wow.
So I said, I need to learn this. And that's now
Wow.
all I do. I do functional medicine from a psychiatric point of view.
Amazing. And why is it that it takes a functional medicine doctor to dig into these things? Why did conventional medicine miss it?
Well, because, most traditional doctors aren't taught anything about nutrition, and they don't make the connection that food is medicine, that food can actually cause inflammation, that food can heal people. I mean, those things are not part of our training as in conventional medicine. And a lot of our training is really about giving medications. It's diagnosing, finding a diagnosis, and then matching a pill to the ill, essentially.
Wow.
And that is to me limitations of training. We are taught about vitamin deficiencies, but very specific vitamins like B12 and folate and vitamin D. But, there's a lot that's talked about even in the conventional or traditional sense about the MTHFR gene and, giving Deplin, which is a medication of high dose of folate that you can prescribe. But beyond that, it's not really talked about very much. But that doesn't mean to say that things aren't changing. Things are absolutely changing.
That's good to know.
I'm part of an integrative medicine or integrative psychiatry caucus through the American Psychiatric Association. And so there's a lot of people being trained in this. And you'll find that the medical schools have functional medicine. There are some medical schools, not every medical school, are popping up, courses in functional medicine or introduction to functional medicine. So things are absolutely changing. Is it going to be across the board in a couple of years? No, it probably is going to take 10, 15 years for it to be like, this is the way things should be done.
Yeah.
And the reason that it's happening is really because of people like you and, people like me talking about these things and really educating people that there is another way. There is absolutely another way. So I did a talk for the district branch of the American Psychiatric Association, the Oklahoma Psychiatric Physicians Association back in November. And I was the plenary speaker, and I talked about my approach of functional medicine for psychiatry, for mental health issues. So that's
great.
Unusual, right?
Keep doing it. Keep getting booked. Let's get you booked and keep this message going.
Right. It is absolutely, out there. I've been to the American Osteopathic Association conventions, and there's a couple of talks. That is unusual, so it's happening. It's absolutely happening. And I have doctors referring patients to me. They say, I don't know what she does, but I know what she does works.
Okay.
So they may not have the bandwidth or the time to learn, because it took years for me to learn this. I was like a sponge. It took me years to learn how to do this and to really practice functional medicine, soup to nuts, not just dabble in it, really practice it. And I'm training other people too. So it's important to keep this mission of changing the face of healthcare. I'm passionate about it, and I feel very strongly about it.
Yeah, good for you. I'm so glad you're doing this. I'm glad you're passionate about it. So
I do want to say that, it shouldn't be either or.
I agree.
I still practice conventional medicine. There is going to be situations where medications, there's a really important place for medications.
Agreed.
In acute situations, it certainly saved my son's life.
Yeah.
But then once you are stable, just like you would be stable after having a car accident, having emergency surgery, and having your limbs put in casts, then there's rehab. So I consider functional medicine as a form of rehab so that you don't have to be on medications for the rest of your life. And if you come to a place where, okay, you know what, you do need to be on this medication, it's for these reasons, then then the benefits outweigh the risks, and you know why you're taking it and why it has to be long-term. It's an informed consent, looking at both sides. I think that's so important for people to be part of that conversation.
Yes, no doubt. Wow, this is really good. Thank you so much for, shining the light on that and where we are now with this conversation, because mental illness is at an all-time high, obviously, post-pandemic. So, depression, anxiety, ADHD, these are things that I hear a lot about just from talking to friends, can you talk about the kind of the thread that connects all those major symptoms?
Sure. I mean, all of those can be caused by inflammation. And so inflammation in your body is going to cause symptoms where you are most vulnerable. So believe it or not, like when I a lot of times when people have inflammation, and they know sometimes that inflammation begins in the gut. If you heal the gut, you heal the brain, right? So, but some people say, but I don't have any gut symptoms. And so you don't have to have gut symptoms or be aware of gut symptoms to have inflammation in your gut. It just happens to be the road into your body or the pathway into your body, and then causing an inflammatory process that begins in your gut, because 80% of your immune system is in your gut lining, in your gut area. And so it is the doorway into your body. And then the inflammation shows up where you're most vulnerable. And how do you know where you're most vulnerable? Is by looking at your family history. So I had a steel-trapped gut, could eat anything, no symptoms, not a single symptom at all. But I had severe eczema, and I have an autoimmune disease. And so I have allergies, or had, so I had really significant symptoms myself, and no gut symptoms, zero. So, I think it's important to understand, because a lot of people think, well, I don't want to do a stool test because I don't have any gut symptoms. Like, you don't have to have gut symptoms. You have all these other symptoms, and that's the doorway.
Interesting. And
yeah, 80%
of our immune system. That's an incredible statistic. And that's a recent, discovery. This whole idea of the gut brain, connection. It to me sounds very much in the past 15, 20 years that this is starting to come to light.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So there's a lot that can be done in terms of healing those symptoms, and the ADD symptoms, the depression, the anxiety, depressive like symptoms are all just a manifestation of inflammation. And that just happens to be you. So, sometimes people will say, oh, I had anxiety all my life, and then when I was a teenager, I got depressed, and now I'm told I have ADD. And to me, it's just an expression of the same process of inflammation that hasn't been disrupted. So it's almost like, if you use the analogy, if you had a tub overflowing, on a second floor, and you didn't turn off the tap, and you didn't let out the drain, that eventually it overflows, and it whatever that water touches, it's going to cause damage, right? And so you could have, the floorboards getting warped, and then so that's one disorder. And then you get, then the walls get soaked up with water, and then you have that disorder, and then it stays there for months, and then you have another disorder. So it's just, I mean, I'm using that as an analogy, is that we shouldn't look at our brains as, as these, pockets of disorders,
Right. Yeah.
it's just your brain is affected. And over time, it just gets worse and worse and worse if you don't address the root causes of that inflammation. So the reason we're given diagnoses is because we need to do that in order to bill insurance, right? To get an IEP and to match a pill to that ill. Okay? That's the whole purpose of getting a diagnosis. None of those diagnoses tell you anything about root causes, about why you're having those symptoms. None of that. The DSM is not about that. And in fact, they decided when they published the DSM-3, it's now the DSM-5, the DSM-3, I think actually there's another edition since the DSM-5, but the DSM-3 was where they decided to take out root causes, take out the causes, only symptom complexes.
Wow.
You have to have this many symptoms out of this list to this severity and this long, and has to cause severe distress and dysfunction with occupationally, socially, or in school. Okay. So that's the purpose of a diagnosis. And and research, to do research. So you need, when you put people in research, they have to meet the criteria of a specific diagnosis in order to determine whether this intervention is going to improve by X% that diagnosis. Okay. So it doesn't really talk about root causes, and the root causes fall in my opinion, 5 categories. That's foods, infections, chronic infections, toxins, stress, and hormones, particularly your stress hormones, cortisol. And that can affect, when that's chronically high, affect your sex hormones. So it's really looking at all of those areas, those 5 areas. And when you are able to drill down to those specific areas and really have interventions to address each of those areas, and it's usually all 5 with most people.
Is that right?
Usually, then you're able to really affect a change and get people well. And the goal would be wellness, not suppression of symptoms.
Amen, sister. Yes, yes, yes. So food, infections, toxins, stress, and hormone, dysregulation, let's say, are these all causes of inflammation or results of inflammation? Which would you say?
I would say causes of inflammation and results.
Okay.
So you could
Both.
have,
Yeah, it works both ways.
It kind of works both ways. Yeah, it's both, because when there's inflammation, for example, due to, our standard American diet is highly inflammatory with all the carbs that you mentioned, all the sugar, the trans fats, unhealthy fats, and people don't eat enough protein. It tends to be low protein, low fats, and high carbs. And eating lots of those carbs tend to be grains as opposed to vegetables. So if we can just reverse all of those categories, a lot of times things can get better. So when there's inflammation over a long period of time, it does burden the immune system to the point where you can have an onboarding of certain pathogens, or, so that's where you can have colonization of certain pathogens that then burden the immune system even more. So whether that be bacterial, viral, fungal, and there's a whole range of parasites, there's a whole range of pathogens that can affect us, tick-borne illnesses. And so when those kinds of things happen, then again, it's another thing that your immune system has to deal with. And what also burdens the immune system are all the toxins that we're completely surrounded by, right? In our environment, in our home, emotionally, right?
Yes.
As well as physically.
Yep.
So toxic boss, toxic partner, toxic friends, everybody has, or environment, whether it be in school, at work, or at home. These are all things that can impact you over time. And again, this type of these stressors can cause your immune system to decline. And so the way your body responds to that is by adrenaline shooting up and then cortisol shooting up. And that all affects your neurotransmitters, right? As well as your other hormones. So do you see how it could be sort of this Rube Goldberg effect?
Yeah. It's a cascading effect. And inflammation is a word for, I mean, when I think of inflammation, of course, as an emotional eater who used to be 50 pounds overweight, I think of getting fatter. Like inflammation is like everything swells. But is that really accurate here? I don't think so.
No, I mean, there's all different kinds of inflammation, so there's allergies are a type of inflammation, so an IgE reaction, there's food sensitivities is a type of inflammation, IgG reactions. Inflammation can be caused by undigested food. So if you are in fight flight, and what that can do is shut down your gut from producing hydrochloric acid and bile salts and enzymes to be able to digest that food. So if you present undigested food to your microbiome, in the intestines, then you're going to have, especially if you have increased gut permeability, which can also be caused by stress, then you're going to end up having reactions, to food, to chemicals. And that's why sometimes people have sensitivities, not just to food, but also, perfumes and chemicals, and so that can then spread not into just your gut, but also your respiratory environment and your skin environment start having reactions on your skin. So it just like my analogy with the tub,
the bathtub,
right?
Which is a great analogy, by the way.
Yeah. It's just really, it just starts getting worse and worse and worse. So it's a matter of looking at putting all your history on a timeline, and just, you can see, oh, this happened first, and then this happened, and this happened, and this happened. So a lot of times people don't really connect those dots. And so you kind of have to be a Sherlock Holmes and try to put your history in a timeline. And then you realize, oh, this is when everything happened. And you put a circle around it and say, my perfect storm, when 2 to 3 things came together in my life and it just caused me to crash. And that happened for a lot of people, during the pandemic, where, you just go, and then you crash because things just kind of started falling apart for them for whatever reason. And everybody's in a different place. And it's usually, and it's a bunch of different variables for different people. And sometimes for some people, the pandemic was a good thing for them, so everyone's different. It's just looking at your personal history and how you respond to your environment, and kind of connecting the dots. And then what's really great is once people connect the dots and they're able to see those variables, then they can just reverse, okay, what do we do to reverse this? And you look at all the variables and you have a plan for each of those variables, right? As opposed to squashing all those symptoms with a pill. Because, in fact, those pills, these antidepressants, they work up to a degree, and they tend to work just for a small percentage of people, but it only reduces symptoms by, on average, 46%. So it's, you're not going to be able to address all of the variables just by one pill. There's going to be multiple things that you have to have other interventions in place.
Well, and that kind of explains why we see commercials for like your second antidepressant, or your antidepressant to supplement your antidepressant, which I'm like, wait a minute, there's something wrong with this picture,
Right. There's so many things that you can do, to make your mood better. And it is looking at all of the possibilities and figuring out what fits in your life that feels right to you. And that's going to require doing a whole review of your life, and really doing a complete review of what you eat, what you do now, and what you can change. But it also requires doing some testing, because there's some things you're not going to be able to know unless you actually test for it. So one thing that a lot of people don't put together is that you can have pretty severe depression just from a low cholesterol. I like to have people's cholesterol be at least above 150, preferably above 160.
Okay.
So there's lots of research that shows that depression can be caused from a low cholesterol below 150.
Interesting.
And below 80, chronic suicidality and suicide attempts.
Wow. And isn't that so crazy? Because back in the day, right, we were all trying to avoid cholesterol. So it's a tricky balance, because we do need it.
Absolutely.
Our brains need it.
Absolutely. 80% of our brain is fat. All of the neurons are surrounded by fat. All the cell layers are, each of our cells have a phospholipid bilayer that's made out of fat. So you need fat in your body. It's not a bad thing. So what we want to do is reduce the bad fats and increase the good fats. And so we want to have a better omega-3s to 6 ratio, a higher omega-3 to 6 ratio. Right now, the ratio is 1 to 16, and you kind of want it to be 2 to 3. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's really important to have healthy fats in your diet, and you want to make sure that your cholesterol is above 160. And many times when people are evaluated for depression, cholesterol is not even looked at.
Wow. Okay. So what are some other things? I mean, you mentioned stress also. I mean, that's such a big one. And I deal with that all the time with emotional eaters, because overeaters tend to be overdoers, and we're just, doing around the clock, right? Trying to avoid our emotions. So, can you talk about stress and how, like, things that you obviously recommend to your patients around reducing stress?
Sure. Well, I think the key is first to be aware of stress. I went through a timeline with one of my patients, and it was a huge aha moment. She was like the Energizer Bunny, multitasking, jack of all trades, really proud of herself, businesswoman,
Right.
right? It's like,
Woman on the go.
Exactly. And she said, "Oh my gosh, the variable across my entire life is stress." All the things. And it's just, people don't even realize that they are under stress because it's just so prevalent and pervasive and becomes your normal.
Yeah.
That even so, the idea of sitting and relaxing is thought of as being a waste of time, feeling guilty about it, shame about it. So it really requires you to be aware that what you're doing is not healthy. And it does require you sort of doing an overview of how you are conducting your life, and to look at the feeling of overwhelm as being a problem. If you're overwhelmed and that leads to anxiety and depression and sleeplessness, and that is a problem. The overwhelm is a signal that your body is telling you to slow down.
Amen.
You got to slow down. And the world is not going to crash if you slow down. And so it does take a real hard look at what you're doing, and understanding that if you died tomorrow, the world will not crash. Everybody will figure it out. And so little by little, while you're alive, you can sort of change how you're doing things, and delegating things, or saying no, and putting yourself first. We talk about putting your oxygen mask on first before you help anybody else. And granted, there's going to be situations, because people say, well, you don't understand. Like, no, I do understand. I've been there.
Yes.
But if you don't take care of yourself, everything will stop. So start taking care of yourself, creating time for yourself, and giving yourself self-care, nurturing yourself. And that kind of mindset is so important. It's so important to put yourself first more than anything, because nothing else will change. It's the same thing as plugging your phone into, into its battery, charger. It's like putting gasoline in your car. Your phone has died or your car died. The world didn't stop, right?
Yes.
The world didn't stop. So I think it's really important for people to be aware that, stress is impacting them, to listen to your body. Listen to your body. I saw a patient yesterday who, really, really productive person. And he says, I'm doing great, except that I have this acid reflux and I have this pain in my finger, but everything else is going great. It's like, and it's just, and his blood pressure was highly elevated. It's like,
right.
So, but let's talk about how you are driving your body into the ground.
Yes.
And just because you didn't crash, it's like the tire going flat, but you're still driving, right?
Right. What's the problem?
Right, exactly. So, but he's such an intellectual and really passionate about his work that he just wants his body to follow. And it's starting to break down, and he wasn't used to that. So it's like, okay, you need to take a look at this. You need to take a look at this.
Yeah.
So,
I love that. And it just, the work that you're doing is so important, Achina. It's been such an illuminating conversation. I love how well, I'm a lay person. I don't speak in, complicated words about depression, anxiety, and these other symptoms. I talk from the lay person's perspective of how this feels. And everything you're saying is so useful, I think, for everybody listening. And I'll just finish up what I said at the beginning about my own depression. It took me years to discover that I'm a creative person. And if I'm not creating, I get depressed, And so literally years, if I'm not creating and I'm not moving my body. Okay. So they both, and I'm sure these are things that you are, certainly recommend to your clients as well. But I found many years ago that if I'm doing something creative, I've got that flow and that outlet, and if I'm not, I will get depressed. So I just offer that, to people listening, is that there's so many different, obviously, if you've got all these different, symptoms or autoimmune issues, you've got to get that, you have to reach out and make sure you're getting help and tested and all that. But I'm super grateful that I did discover this little hack, which is when I'm in creation mode, which my business, Heal Your Hunger, I make videos and I do podcasts and I write emails, and somehow all those different creative things I do keep me on the up and up. Like I am happy, like all the time, because of the creative, that creative flow. So that's sort of how I was able to heal. But I didn't have a lot of things you're talking about that in any way, shape, or form.
It's important to find the things that are in alignment with who you are as a person. For me, I'm not an exercise person, but I love sports. So I'm not the kind of person who likes to go to the gym and lift weights or do it all.
Me either. Not that kind of exercise.
And so, but when I play ultimate Frisbee, it's fun, it's play, and I don't even know that I'm moving my body. I just go after the disc.
That's the best kind of exercise. I'm the same way. Tennis, I love it. And I have played ultimate Frisbee, by the way. My boyfriend is a big ultimate Frisbee person for 30 years. So I got out there, and I think I'm going to be doing some more of that. So I love learning that about you.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
Absolutely. I love it. Yeah, I've been playing for years. It's
how fun. And do you go to other like when you go to, because when he's traveling, he looks for pickup games wherever he is, and he meets people wherever he goes because of ultimate Frisbee.
Oh, absolutely. I'm on multiple teams locally, And
awesome.
actually going to be flying to Colorado to play in Grandmasters Nationals. So
congratulations.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah. So
it's such a social sport, and which is to me the best kind of sport, right? And that's why I love tennis, because I always plays doubles because it's just fun and social. And so you get that social stimulation as well as the exercise.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, it is just like, it's finding the type of sport that feels right to you. So, I played soccer and I played tennis as well, but it was ultimate frisbee that actually was really good for my husband and me and my 3 kids. So we all play ultimate. So it is a family activity as
that
well.
Is so cool.
Yeah. I think people need to find what it is that keeps them playful, happy, creative, but also to find ways to, sort of calm the body and nurture the body in a recharge or relax kind of way. And just like there's all different kinds of sports, there is also different kinds of meditation. So sometimes when people say, I want to make a point to say that sometimes when people say, oh, I tried meditation, I didn't like it. Well, guess what? There's all different kinds.
Right.
There's so many different kinds of meditations, practices, and it's important to try different ones to figure out what is right for you. So,
yes. And
breathing. There's so many different kinds of or methods of breathing as well. There's not one way, and they again affect different systems and provide different results. So it's important to understand that there's a whole array, just like there's all these different kinds of sports too.
Yeah. Well, and I will add too, because my clients adopt, their own form of meditation, but it's definitely an integral part of, reducing the cravings and finding more calm and peace inside. And my experience is you don't like meditation right off the bat. Like you don't like it. It goes against our nature to sit down and be quiet,
Mm-hmm.
So don't wait till you like it to do it. You just do it and then you'll learn to like it.
Right. Yeah. And it's especially for those Energizer bunny people, right? So meditation doesn't have to be quiet. And it doesn't have to be sitting, with doing nothing. There are active meditations where, you could start with that and just noticing things, just being aware and noticing things is a type of meditation.
Yeah.
So you can ease into in stages, these different practices, starting from where you're at, instead of forcing yourself to be someone you're not. Right. So it's having certain goals. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for everything. I love this conversation. It's been really juicy. I have one final question for you, and then we can wrap it up. And that is, this being the Heal Your Hunger show, what is your deepest hunger?
My deepest hunger is, currently it's to have more fun.
Yes.
So I always have a goal, theme of the year. So my deepest hunger is to have more fun and visit more places, travel.
Ooh, I love that. Love it. Yes. And now we can. Thank you, post-pandemic. So awesome. Thank you so much, Achina. And so Achina, can you tell us where people can find you?
Absolutely. Yeah. You could look me up at Functional Mind. It's my practice. It's www.f as in Frank, X as in X-ray, N as in Nancy, mind.com, fxnmind.com. And there's also a second website called achinasteindo.com, www.achinasteindo.com. Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for your incredible work and really welcome. For shining your light on this important topic.
Oh, and you can find me on Instagram and Facebook as well.
Okay.
I forgot to mention
awesome.
that.
And we'll put some links in the show notes.
Great.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to get free support, insider health info, exclusive invites to events, and more, visit healyourhunger.com.